Hey folks, Red Labor here. I want to talk about where the right is wrong on racism. Racism. Now, obviously, as a leftist, I oppose all forms of racial, ethnic, religious bigotry based on gender, status, um, sexual orientation, all across the board. Doesn't make me better than anybody else saying these things, but these are values that I live by as a democratic socialist. You don't have to be a democratic socialist to be opposed to racism across the board. Liberals, they're conservatives, they're moderates, they're libertarians, they're paleocons, they're commies, they're anarchists, people from across the political spectrum. And I take it at face value that most people are not racist, anti-Semitic, or what have you in this day and age. I have faith in my fellow human beings in that regard. You know, racism is reserved for assholes in the fringes of society. I would include white supremacists, black supremacists, anybody. Anybody can be a racist. Anybody can be a racist, but I don't believe that is the majority. But I do want to confront some on the right who are not necessarily racist when they accuse those on the left of being racist. Are you for real? I heard somebody on YouTube by the name of Wild Bill for America refer to liberals as racist and say that we won't be a racist society when liberalism is defeated. And when he says liberalism, he means the entire left in the American political sense of the term. Now, I have no idea whether he's a racist or not, but the thing about it is, it makes no sense. And some people will listen to such garbage and think of it as gospel. Okay. The argument goes like this. I hear liberal plantation, the time of Roosevelt and Johnson, New Deal, Great Society programs that taken place and everything. And it just happened to coincide with the modern civil rights movement. Well, I will hear things about liberal plantation, food stamps, welfare queen, blah, 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 and no matter how you slice it, whether somebody's a racist or not, on the right, they do like to paint a black face on welfare. I mean, now, the truth about welfare is, there are people, welfare programs has no racial criteria. When it was created to help those in poverty to lift themselves out of poverty. The whole helping hand, help people so they can help themselves. And I believe in these programs with that intent and purpose. Now, I hear race pimp, things like that, and it's usually thrown at people like Jesse Jackson and people like Al Sharpton and what have you and everything. And I don't for a second, even if I disagree occasionally with Reverend Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson on an issue here and there, and I could go where I do disagree with them, I largely agree with them most of the time. And I don't believe that neither men are anti-white or anti-Semitic or what have you out there to go and to keep blacks in poverty in order to keep their power base. I believe they're sincere in what they advocate and everything. And what they're advocating when it comes to poverty issues, it's not reserved for just black people. It's reserved for white people. Unions make life better for workers. It makes them middle class. There's nothing racial about it. There is nothing racial about medical care for all. it was designed, the whole idea of medical care for all. And I'm sorry to you folks on the right, we're not a socialized medicine nation at this point after Obamacare. Wish it was true, but it just ain't. And medical care for all is race neutral, just as labor union jobs are race neutral. We can talk about WICs, and we can talk about public housing and food stamps and things like that. Again, race neutral. It's designed for anybody who needs that assistance. Now, I have some ideas on how to reform the welfare system. I think public assistance should mean perhaps maybe public works. Roosevelt had a couple of noble ideas back in the 1930s that I think is worth revisiting. The Civil Conservation Corps, Work Progress Administration, that ended up with projects like the TVA, Tennessee Valley Authority, helped the people in eastern Tennessee. Corporations wouldn't do it, wouldn't come there and help these impoverished folks, and then all of a sudden all these businesses and corporations start beating their chest. Creeping socialism! When the Tennessee Valley Authority was created. My point is that I know there are some people on the liberal left that likes to throw around the word racist, and it's a word that stings, and I'm going to be one of those folks on the left that will tell folks on the left that likes to throw around the term lightly to tell them to stop it, because being conservative on economics and social issues and on foreign policy does not make you a racist. But listen, some of you folks that like to throw that term back on the left, we're not being racist either. We may all have different ideas how to solve problems, and there are problems and issues that the left and right may debate about that doesn't really have a racial component to it, other than we're all Americans. That's right there where it's at. And this whole notion of throwing around the race term right back is just, it's just as that's just as low as when some on the politically correct left, and some who are not even all that far to the left, but once they throw around that word, two wrongs don't make a right. But let's talk about history for a moment, and just for a moment, the Civil Rights Movement. Prior to the Civil Rights Movement, I do have to ask this question: where were many who likes to throw around this term against the liberal left and to the left of the liberal left, using the term, you're the one that are racist? Where were you guys when blacks were being lynched? Where were you guys when blacks were being discriminated against? Where were you guys, where people who were of a certain racial or ethnic or religious minority status were being treated in a subhuman-like manner, or at worst or at best, politely turned away in terms of equal opportunity? Where were you guys back then? It seems like maybe the people who were working for civil rights and equality and equal opportunity were those people on the liberal left and the progressives, and people who were to the left of the liberal left and the progressives, working for equality, racial, ethnic, religious equality. Where were you guys? And and you want to say, I hear some people say, well, the Republicans all voted for the Civil Rights Act, and I don't think that Barry Goldwater was a racist, but Barry Goldwater was one of the 6 Republicans in the U.S. Senate that voted against the Civil Rights Act in 1964. Well, guess what? I don't think he was a racist, but a lot of Southern Democrats started to find a home in the Republican Party afterwards. And do you think for 1 minute people in the Deep South, whites in the Deep South, that were voting Democrats for the longest time, that started voting Republican, voted Republican because and race had nothing to do with it. Jesse Helms, who was used to be a Democrat, he became a Republican. Strom Thurmond used to be a Democrat, became a Republican. Trent Lott used to be a Democrat, became a Republican. Are you going to tell me those guys did not discard their racism when they became Republicans? If anything, they kind of kept it alive as much and pushed the envelope of racism as much as was socially acceptable to do so. So, you know, those people who want to say that you liberals are the racists, I mean, you know, look at some of the, you know, the worst aspects of the modern political right today and tell me otherwise. Thank you. Bye-bye.